people who are drawn, and I'm making some generalizations. Some people will be like, no, that's not me, but that's okay. People who are drawn to things like physique, sport, and even athletes in general, there is typically an element of a need for control. And if you look at people with eating disorders, often they're developed in a situation where that person, either as a young adult or when they're a child, did not have control. And one of the things that almost all of us can control is what we do with our food. Even if we aren't given the food we want, or if the food access is different than we might expect in a normal family, you can always say, I'm not going to eat it. Like that's you're taking your stand. That's a coping mechanism for many people who are end up with an eating disorder. And not that an eating disorder is exactly the same as contest prep, but there are some parallels. And in many cases, bodybuilders are drawn to control, and measuring and tracking each variable. It feels good, and it makes them feel like they've ticked off all the boxes. Um, that doesn't go away. I don't think that need fully goes away. It can be managed. It can be made more healthy, and with uh, a good awareness of what boxes are actually should be ticked off, you can shift the focuses to different things. Like, instead of focusing on, I've got to eat 8 meals a day, therefore I have to bring Tupperware with me, and therefore I can't hang out with my friends, and certain boxes create problems, right? But if I give someone a different set of boxes to tick that are based on physiology, and that it's relevant to what your goals are, and more accurate, fantastic, but also that allow you to have a healthy psychosocial relationship with the world, um, all of a sudden you can avoid some of those behaviors. But I'm still having them tick boxes, because it's kind of like I'm using a different operating system that's more efficient and it's better for the machine, but it's still the same computer. If I'm using that analogy of our brains kind of having some programming that's very difficult to change, and it's not my role to change someone's programming. I'm not a psychologist. Um, but on the flip side of that, obviously, the to get consistent data, the more controls, the better. There's a reason why scientists are, in many ways, scientists do the same thing with a group that bodybuilders do with themselves. They control as many variables as possible to get an outcome, and then when something, doesn't go the way they are, they're able to isolate it. And that's what more experienced bodybuilders do, is they don't change everything all at the same time, and that's one of the reasons they're very meticulous outside of that. And then as a coach, it's kind of a blend of these two things. I'm safeguarding the needs of the athlete, psychologically, as you were bringing up. And then I'm also trying to control variables so I can figure out if something does or doesn't work, what's going on. So it is a balancing act. Like, definitely it's true. Like, not only are food labels inaccurate, but your energy expenditure varies so much day to day. So the macros that we might have put on a pedestal as these are the targets, you kind of have to realize, like, if my energy expenditure on a day-to-day basis changes by 500 calories, and why are these the macros? And so it's both me saying, right, I want you to hit these macros consistently, because then that's a consistent variable, but also realize, don't put them on too much of a pedestal. Here are some tools, to revert to just calories and protein rather than macros, or trade fats for carbs, or here's how you work in alcohol. I give them some tools, but I control that variable to whatever's reasonable, and then that allows me to make better decisions going down the line, while also giving them tools so that it's not detrimental. Um, but at the same time, you can't just be completely loose with it all, because that doesn't give this person that sense of control that's there in the first place, and B, it doesn't allow you to really know exactly what's happening when things stop working. So there is an element where you do need to have that structure, but having the structure that makes sense rather than the one that is purely slaved to your psychology, is probably a healthier long-term approach, and can help the person retrain and think differently so that they can compete in a healthier and healthier way over time.